seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you.
That's it! You're locked in here with me!
All right, what night is it? Is it Tuesday? Tuesday already? Yikes, that means it's Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. Hope everybody's having a great start to the week. Looks like JJ got into the chat first, got the first like of the evening. That means double good karma for JJ Nevada. Double good karma. Good for you, sir. As you know, every like on the stream gets you your own personal dose of free good karma. And in these troubled times, who would turn their nose up at that? I wouldn't. I'm not crazy. Also, subscribing to the channel also helps with the karma thing. It's excellent. It's good for you. You won't regret it. Nevada says, hope there's more commie hate tonight. It's been getting kind of soft around here lately. Has it been getting soft with the commie hate? I hadn't noticed, frankly. It felt like I was doing a good job on that, but you know, I'll make a special effort tonight to put in some extra commie hate for you, because I know you appreciate it. Jesse, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Well, there's lots of news going on. Tons of news going on. Let's go through the menu. We'll go through everything quickly. And we'll go through everything quickly. I'll show you what we're going to talk about, and then we'll actually get into the stories in depth after that. So first off, there is a court challenge regarding the prorogation of Parliament in Canada, during which time the Liberal Party of Canada is supposed to be picking a new leader. When they do, Justin Trudeau has promised that he will step down, that he will resign. There is a challenge to this, a court challenge to it, though, because really Canadians just want an election right now. We don't want to have to wait until, March 24th at the earliest. So we will talk about that. There is a legal challenge. How does it look? I don't think it looks very good, but, you never know. Let's talk about Pete Hegseth as well tonight and his confirmation hearings here. And it's about what you would expect from the lunatics who don't really care about anything other than politics. I think he did quite well. We're going to talk about Mark Carney. He is kind of, I guess at this point, the presumptive new leader for the Liberal Party after Trudeau. He's going on a little American media tour here. Here he is on The Daily Show. Of course, Jon Stewart loves him because liberal party. These people, they've just been trained to just have this aesthetic dislike, just this automatic disgust for anything that sounds like it might be conservative in any way, whatever that means. Anyway, this is a ridiculous interview here. We're going to get into some of the polling around this as well and just see, how much of a shot does Carney really have? How is it looking? Spoiler alert, I don't think it's looking very good for him. I don't think Canada has a massive appetite for globalist banker who loves mass immigration and carbon taxes and has been advising Justin Trudeau economically for the last 4 years. I'm not sure there's a huge appetite for that, but I think he'll probably end up being the leader. This is interesting. Revealed, former Hillary Clinton staffer turned FBI spy hunter and DOD senior advisor claims to be plotting with retired generals to protect America from Trump. Really, are they protecting America or somebody else or themselves or some ideology? I don't know, but I find it hilarious that these people, we've said it a million times. If you're on a dating site, just assume every single person there is either James O'Keefe or James O'Keefe in glasses or James O'Keefe with a wig or James O'Keefe sent the person there. And they're going to report to him and they're going to record you and show that to the world. They haven't figured that out yet, including Spy Hunter. Spy Hunter. I'm wondering if perhaps the spy hunters of today are not the spy hunters of yesteryear. Because it's really, spy hunter really should be the last person that should just be easily caught in a honey trap, but whatever. We'll talk about that tonight. We've got video from it, which will be very interesting to you. It's just hilarious. Have these people never heard of James O'Keefe Media Group? Somebody needs to tell them. Let's see. Then for the last tab, the live stream tab. We've got a bunch of stuff. We've got some Elon Musk stuff here. We have Chris Cuomo talking to just the absolutely unbelievably, just so obviously and transparently corrupt Maxine Waters. I think they're both corrupt. Chris Cuomo has done this kind of turnaround where he seems to be interested in accurately describing reality, but I don't really trust him. But hey, I mean, if that's the default, if that's where the default becomes, whether or not people really mean it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still good for society as a whole, Western civilization as a whole. We've got some memes here that I think you will enjoy. We've got a joke here, which I think you're going to enjoy. It's a good one. It's a bit dirty, though, but it's good. I mean, it was on cable TV. It can't be that dirty, right? We got some Joe Rogan talking about Pierre Poilievre here. He's getting some notice outside of Canada, which is a good thing. We've got Adam Carolla with another rant about, about the people who voted for the people who did not seem to have any interest in preventing massive fires in LA. We've got some Dr. Drew stuff here getting censored. I mean, when you're censoring Dr. Drew, for God's sakes, I mean, come on. You're going too far. Do they not feel shame? You've got Don Lemon. You've got Don Lemon on an unhinged meltdown, blasting MAGA in a profanity-laced rant. After maybe he's on Molly or something. Maybe that's why he's swearing so much. Trump and Obama were seen talking civilly with one another in public. He just can't take it. He can't stand it. He's not mad that Obama pretended. He's not mad. He's mad that after, everybody called Trump a fascist, that now they're seen talking to him. It hasn't seemed to occur to him that maybe it was all bullshit all along. Maybe he's really not. Maybe he should be mad at the people who lied to him about Trump and all of his followers being fascists. But no, that's not going to happen. It's Don Lemon. Let's see. You got the European Federation of Journalists representing 300,000 journalists who are just dead set against free speech. What a weird thing. What a weird world we're living in now. How did that happen? Let's see. We got some more memes. We got a bunch of stuff. Maybe we'll just get started. Of course, we've got the puppies for the puppy palate cleanser. If things get too heavy, we can go there. It's hilarious. Look at this puppy here. Wonderful puppies. We've got cooking shows, of course, for palate cleansers as well. If things get too heavy, we can watch cooking shows. I mean, here's a noodle cooking show, which is fantastic. That's my favorite, really. Sandwich making show. We've got a bruschetta making show here. It's fantastic. And we've got a drink mixing show here, too. It's not strictly cooking, but it's all the same kind of thing. Food, drinks, whatever. Anyway, I know that you guys enjoy that. I should say, first off, that we start streaming on YouTube and Rumble at the same time, but we don't go the whole distance with YouTube because there's censorship issues, back-end issues with YouTube. So we do the first hour, and if I do just an hour, it seems to prevent it from becoming a nightmare after the stream. So we just do an hour. That seems to work fairly well. And then we shut that part off and continue on with Rumble. If you're watching Rumble, you need to do nothing. That stream will just continue and we will have a great time. There's always way, way more people on Rumble anyway. And all the chat is from Rumble generally. And so we have a great time. And I encourage the people that are watching on YouTube to come over to Rumble when the time comes. So what's going on with the chat? Let's take a quick peek. Well, Jesse's saying that he likes boobs. I guess that's a hint. Hold on. There we go. They're quite popular these days. Well, they've always been popular. I don't care what the feminists say. Izzy says, is it possible I got the first like, that you got the first like, Izzy? I don't know. I think that Nevada was claiming first. I guess you'll find out when you discover how much good karma you got. If you got double the normal amount of karma that you get for liking the stream, then I guess you got the first one. That's how you can tell. First one always gets double good karma. You know that. Let's see. Jesse says Rumble is glitching. Is it glitching again? There's been some glitching going on Rumble. Saying it's been really glitchy the last few days. You know, it's a work in, it's great. It's improved an enormous amount. It's worth it, the occasional bit of glitching for the whole free speech thing. Let's see. And just not manipulating the channels either. I mean, I told you guys, like at January, February, March 2024, my channel was going great. I mean, you know, by my standards, right? By my standards, not going by like Timcast standard, but like by my standards, it was going great. Overnight, lost like 95% of my views. Just nobody was seeing my thumbnails anymore. Even I don't think my subscribers that I had. Just nothing for like, it was like 8 months leading up to the election. And then the election happens and all of a sudden it goes back up again. I was losing subscribers every month during that, 7-8 months, whatever it was. I think I maybe gained like 5 subscribers 1 month. After the first quarter of the year, I had been gaining tons. Election happens, through, it's still, 40% of where it was, but it's gone up a lot. And I'm bringing in subscribers, brought in like 180 something last month, which for my channel is good. So there's that whole election thing, lead up to the election thing, and all of a sudden something happens. I mean, it's just clearly not organic, people. There is no reason why I would get way more views after the election, like they just flipping a switch, than before, when there's more people watching, more people interested in things like the election politics before, right? Not organic, clearly manipulated, clearly an algorithm that's just been trained to, been told to dislike certain words and derank things that use certain keywords. That's it. That doesn't happen on Rumble. Now, discoverability is still kind of a problem on Rumble, but they're working on it. They're fixing it. And hey, we can say what we want here. Rumble's going great. All right, let me continue here. All right, we got Turtles in the chat. Good to see ya. All right, Turtle says Trump on a dino. You guys want Trump on a dino? I can give you that. I can give you Trump on a dino. With his best friend, the eagle. Beautiful. It brings me to tears almost, that one. Nevada says, in 3 hours, Biden and Kamala will never be in the White House again on a Tuesday. It is a time for celebration. Nevada says, I still love Rumble, glitches and all. All right. Me too. Let's see. All right. All right. No Rosie so far. All right. I'm sure she'll be in soon. All right. Let's, should we just get to the story, shall we? Hold on. Give me Trump wins another state. I can give you that. I've got that as well. Let's just reset our minds and just reset ourselves in history and just imagine that it's when Pennsylvania was called for Trump. All right, that was pretty sweet. I'm just keeping that in my stream deck forever because it's good memories, right? That was such a fun stream, the election night. That was great. It was dense, but it was an unbelievable stream. It was awesome. All right. So Green Crow here says there is a court challenge regarding the prorogation that will be heard by the Federal Court of Canada, possibly as early as next week. If Canadian citizens win this challenge, then Parliament will be ordered back in session and a confidence vote will follow. For those watching not in Canada, prorogation is something the Prime Minister can do, which suspends Parliament, so nothing can get done, right? There's something called a confidence vote in Canadian parliamentary democracy, where Parliament can vote on whether they have confidence in the government or not. And if not, then you have an election if you get enough votes for that. That is why Trudeau prorogued the Parliament or suspended the Parliament to avoid an election now. And he's saying it so that the Liberal Party can have time to pick a new leader for the next election. Many of us in Canada feel like this is all just bullshit and we want an election now. We want one right now. We don't want to wait for the Liberal Party to pick another loser. Right? Let's just get it done now, especially with all this tariff stuff coming from the United States. It's just time. Just because of everything, because of the state of Canada. We're done. We want a new election. We want the Conservative Party in. So, two men file unprecedented legal challenge. Two men file unprecedented legal challenge against Trudeau's request for prorogation. So, who is doing this? A legal advocacy group is spearheading an unprecedented legal challenge against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's request for prorogation, asking a federal court judge to cancel the, quote, incorrect and unreasonable demand to reset Parliament. In a lawsuit filed Tuesday, this article is from January 7th. In a lawsuit filed Tuesday, two Canadian citizens, David Joseph McKinnon and Aris Lavranos, argued that Trudeau's decision Monday to request the Governor General prorogue Parliament until March 24th was made solely in service of the interests of the LPC, Liberal Party of Canada. Now, it is a political move, though, is the thing. Funded by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, McKinnon and Lavranos' lawsuit is asking a federal court judge to strike Trudeau's decision to request prorogation and instead declare that Parliament has not been prorogued. This would allow for a no confidence vote, which would, as long as the NDP Jagmeet Singh goes along with it, we will have an election soon, and the Liberals will just have to deal with that. Now, it all sounds great, but how likely is it? So let's go expert opinions. There's a split in expert analysis. Some constitutional experts suggest that the challenge faces a high legal bar due to the nature of prorogation being a political rather than strictly legal matter governed by constitutional convention. Paul Daly, for instance, highlights that Trudeau's justification for prorogation to reset Parliament and allow time for a leadership change might be seen as reasonable under current circumstances, potentially making the challenge less likely to succeed. However, others argue that the specific context of the prorogation, coinciding with an impending confidence vote, could provide grounds for judicial intervention. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, it is fundamentally political in nature. This is all political. I don't expect that we'll get something that will please us. At least not the sane people in Canada. But there you have it. So I'm not holding my breath. I'm just putting it that way. All right, let's move on. Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth, the confirmation hearings, Secretary of Defense. Obviously, Democrats are going to freak out and be apocalyptic, regardless of who it is. Regardless, it could be It could be Kamala Harris, right? Trump could have just out of the blue somehow picked Kamala Harris, and they'd be the same. Whoever Trump picks is going to be the end of the world, right? So he's had to put up with quite a lot in this, quite a lot of hysterics. In fact, somebody made a little thing here, which actually, I think, well, this sums it up quite well, actually. There he is, the famous Ben Affleck picture, but with Pete Hegseth. That's how you would feel. But somebody else did one as well. Let's check this out. This basically sums it up.
Yes, are you willing to support our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line to keep us safe, just like. Are you willing to support it?
Yes, it was exactly what you thought it would be. Exactly what you thought. He must have desperately needed a drink after all of this. But let's get to some of this here. Let's see what's going on here.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. But let's check this one out here. Vigilant Fox, Pete Hegseth wows the room with a powerful opening statement. So let's watch. We're not going to watch the entire opening statement. Let's just watch the first part of it, which I think is pretty important.
The Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength. And in pursuing these America First national security goals will remain patriotically apolitical and stridently constitutional. Unlike the current administration, politics should play no part in military matters. We are not Republicans. We are not Democrats. We are American warriors. Our standards will be high and they will be equal, not equitable. That's a very different word. We need to make sure every warrior is fully qualified on their assigned weapon system, every pilot's fully qualified and current on the aircraft they are flying. And every general or flag officer is selected for leadership or promotion purely based on performance, readiness, and merit.
See, this is all sanity, which is why it'll go over terribly with leftists, right? Like equality, not equity. But they don't like that. They want equity. Like, what you have to understand about the woke is that their brains have been taken over by an idea pathogen. And just whatever it is, whatever they get into, whatever they see, everything just has to be about perpetuating the idea pathogen, the bad ideas, spreading the bad ideas. Everything else comes secondary to that. Being prepared. I mean, there is nothing more serious than war. Right? It is literally life and death. Like the only thing that should matter is capability, is merit. That's the only thing that should matter. This is all just sanity, right? Again, that's another reason why the leftists will hate this. Because, when he talks about, he doesn't want the military to be political. Well, for the left, everything is political. Like they say that the personal is political. Everything is. Just being competent is political to them. Merit is political to them. Like just choosing the best person for the job, they see as being political. Normal people see that as just fair and unbiased. They don't. They see that as a political statement because it's not equity. Right? Everybody has an equal chance to compete, but not everybody's going to be the same. Normal people, sane people recognize this, right? That's not equity. Equity doesn't matter who's best. You just got to check boxes. That's it. This is the kind of sanity that the world needs. The world needs to be reset to this. That should be the great reset, right? So we've seen, with Mark Zuckerberg saying he's getting rid of the third-party fact checkers and moving towards a community notes style system like there is on X, right? That's the great reset that we actually need. Resetting to sanity, like resetting to legal speech. That's the reset that the entire Western world needs. Resetting to sanity. So sanity is the default, right? Merit is the default. That's why he's there, to try and help that, to try and promote that. Which, of course, leftists are going to freak out about, right? When you talk like that about things like merit, when you say sane things, this is what you're going to get.
Veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line.
Not one of them gives a shit about reality or accurate descriptions of reality. Not one of them. That's not what they're there for. Let's see. How about this? Let's check this one out. From Libs of TikTok posted this one. Wow, Senator Eric Schmidt and Pete Hegseth blast woke ideologies that have infected the military. Well, they've infected everything, but it's no more dangerous anywhere else than it is in the military.
On a few things specifically and exactly how we've gotten to where we've gotten with recruiting and morale. DEI. There's been a little bit of discussion about this, but for those watching at home, DEI is not about giving everybody opportunity. It is rooted in cultural Marxism. The idea that you pit the room, any room, with oppressor versus oppressed. It's race essentialism, and it is poison. It has no business whatsoever in our military. I think the American people have spoken loudly and clearly about this. They're tired of this. They're tired of woke ideology. And to my Democrat colleagues on the other side, if you haven't picked up on that, you missed the plot. Because that's what November 5th partially was about. And so let's talk specifically about some of these DEI programs that have been funded. In our academies, specifically the Air Force Academy, it was advised as disfavored language to refer to your mom and dad as mom and dad. Okay? Dear mom and dad, I'm writing home. Don't say that. That's insane. We're all just people. You can't say that either. And in an effort to police this, in a 1984 Orwellian novel, there was actually an eyes and ears program to rat on your fellow students who might say mom and dad. Or just say, in a tough situation, you know what? We're all just people. Can't say that. This wasn't limited, by the way, to our academies. The Secretary of the Air Force, our current Secretary of the Air Force, in a memo from August of 2022, thought we had too many white officers, advocated for quotas. And if you crunch the numbers, that meant that 5,800 white officers who've worked really hard should be fired. In the United States of America, I don't know how we got here. And by the way, the Air Force isn't alone here. The Navy sort of touted a drag queen influencer. This stuff is insane. And people wonder why recruiting has dropped off. And let me just go through a few numbers, and I want to get your comments on how we fix this, because it's gone completely off the rails. In 2022, the Army missed their recruiting goal of 60,000 soldiers by over 15,000. In 2023, the Navy missed their recruiting goals by over 7,000. In 2022, the Air Force couldn't meet their standards, their numbers, even though they lowered their standards. They've lowered their standards to meet numbers they still can't get to. Mr. Hegseth, we got to fix this. I think what you've demonstrated today is that you have the talent and the ability and the desire to fix it. How are you going to fix it?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. First and foremost, up front, you have to tear out DEI and CRT initiatives root and branch out of institutions.
100%.
They should also be calling it what it is. It's communism, right? Read about the Russian Revolution and the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks were well aware of how important it was to infiltrate the military. Woke commies, because whether or not they know that's what they are or not, but woke commies infiltrating the military, especially at the highest levels, should terrify every sane person. Every sane person with just a passing knowledge of 20th century history. Yeah, it's crucially important to get that out. It's not a small deal. I mean, wokeness, obviously, it takes over every institution, right? It's just sees itself as this universal ideology that should run everything. But the military should particularly frighten people. All right. Let me just check the chat for 1 second here. It looks like we got Rosie in the chat. Good to see ya. Let me, so I've got some of the stuff you sent over on X, Rosie, that we'll be looking at tonight. Also, too, you're talking about, yes, there is a link between Sticker Mule, and Rumble, where you can set up, link your Sticker Mule and your Rumble accounts together. I have looked into it because it looks great, because you can do stickers, you can do t-shirts and fridge magnets and all kinds of stuff. Looks awesome. I want to have a merch store. Now, the thing is, with having a Rumble, YouTube, a creator channel, is that everything takes forever. Everything takes way longer than you think it's going to take. Nothing is easy. Nothing is simple. I'm kind of a natural Luddite. I'm not, this is an unnatural world for me to be in, really. It's just through great frustration and strenuous effort that I've managed to set all this up. But I am on top of that. And I hope I want to find out if there's some way I can gift out a few things, to the to the long time viewers. But I am going to set that up. It's just these things take me forever to do. I spent like 2 hours last night trying to figure everything up, how to make a t-shirt and stuff, and it's going to take me a while. But I am on top of that, or at least I'm looking at it. I wouldn't say on top. That's too strong, but I'm working on it, and eventually it will happen. All right, let's get to the next one. Pete Hegseth clarified his position on women in combat roles, and I completely agree. This is from Gunther Eagleman. Well, what did he say?
Trump indicated at all that he plans to rescind or alter that guidance?
You're correct to point out, Senator, that these are the decisions that the Commander-in-Chief will have the prerogative to make. He has not indicated to me that he has plans to change whether or not women would have access to these roles. However, I would point out, ensuring that standards are equal and high is of importance to him and great importance to me. Because in those ground combat roles, what is true is that the weight of the ruck on your back doesn't change. The weight of the 155 round that you have to carry doesn't change. The weight of the 240 Bravo machine gun you might have to carry doesn't change. And so whether it's a man or a woman, they have to meet the same high standards. And Senator, in any place where those things have been eroded or in courses, criteria have been changed in order to meet quotas, racial quotas or gender quotas, that is putting a focus on something other than readiness, standards, meritocracy, and lethality. So that's the kind of review I'm talking about, not whether women have access to ground combat.
Okay,
roles.
so
You'd think that like all women would also be in favor of not changing the standards, because if you're lowering the standards for somebody whose body can't handle it, or psychologically, whether it's male or female, right? Body or psychologically can't handle the rigorous training, you're basically just sending out cannon fodder at that point, right? Like there's a reason why they have the rigorous training, right? So you'd think that women would be in favor of that, because War is already very dangerous, right? Why make yourself just cannon fodder? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, even if I still think there's a concern, even if a woman can pass the standards, can meet the standards, because there is a different dynamic between men and women, right? I mean, there are examples of women in combat positions throughout history. It's not common. Generally, it's like a last resort. You can think of, there's a few female snipers in like Stalingrad. They had a female anti-aircraft group. But they all got killed, for one. All those women operating the anti-aircraft guns. And it's kind of a last resort because there are physical differences, right? There are physical frailties that are more common in the average with women than men. And then obviously there's the R word as well, right? So if you're a female soldier, you can expect different treatment in that respect. There's good reasons not to do it, but if you're going to do it, don't lower the standards because, again, you're just turning them into cannon fodder at that point.
Trump indicated.
All right. Let's see. From Charlie Kirk says, has uploaded this clip. Pete Hegseth describes how he was banned from serving with his National Guard unit for a tattoo of the Jerusalem cross, the same Christian symbol that was on the floor of the National Cathedral during Jimmy Carter's funeral. It's the woke, it's a mind virus obsession with white supremacy. They just can't stop throwing it around, even though it has, as far as I can tell, very little effect anymore. The accusations of ism and phobe and all of that, it seems to have very little effect anymore. Yet they just can't help but do it. Now, let's watch this here.
You'd mentioned that you were not able to serve with your National Guard unit in the protection of the inauguration of Joe Biden because of a tattoo, a Christian tattoo. Can you elaborate just a little bit on what is this very offensive, extremist, racist tattoo that you have?
It's a tattoo I have right here, Senator. It's called the Jerusalem Cross. It's a historic Christian symbol. In fact, interestingly, recently I attended briefly the memorial ceremony of former President Jimmy Carter on the floor of our National Cathedral. On the front page of his program was the very same Jerusalem Cross. It is a Christian religious symbol. And when the events happened before preceding the Biden inauguration, I was a part of the mobilization to defend that inauguration as someone who'd been a proud supporter of Donald Trump, but also a member of the military, had orders to come to Washington, D.C. to guard that inauguration. And at the last minute, those orders were revoked. I'd never had orders revoked before. I'd been on orders to a lot of places to do a lot of difficult and dangerous things. They were revoked and I was not told why. Later, when I wrote my book, I was able to get information that was because I had been identified. Someone who'd served in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Guantanamo Bay, holding a riot shield outside the White House. I'd been identified as an extremist, as someone unworthy of guarding the inauguration of an incoming American president. And if that's happening to me, Senator, how many other men and women, how many other patriots, how many other people of conscience? We haven't even talked about COVID and the tens of thousands of service members who were kicked out because of an experimental vaccine. In President Trump's Defense Department, they will be apologized to. They will be reinstituted with pay and rank. Things like focusing on extremism, Senator, have created a climate inside our ranks that feel political when it hasn't ever been political. Those are the types of things that are going to change. And Senator Sullivan, you mentioned that study. After a whole study was held, extremism working group study, 100 extremists were identified in the ranks of 3 million. And most of those were gang related.
It's that kind of iron rule of whatever modern leftists, whatever woke progressives accuse you of doing, they're doing themselves, right? Every single time they do it shamelessly. Shamelessly. All right.
You'd mentioned.
So what's going on here? Holy crap, Pete Hegseth just delivered Democrats lecturing him on the Armed Services Committee a truth nuke. Well, I want to hear what this truth nuke is. Let's take a look.
And when they were more restrictive, they took advantage of them, and it put our men and women in a more dangerous and difficult place.
And you believe
for
that
future wars we fight, we need to have someone atop the Pentagon, sir, who understands how those ripple effects
Well, I just want to understand your position. Your position is torture's okay. Is that correct? Waterboarding, torture is no longer prohibited given the circumstances of whatever war we're in. Is that correct?
Senator, that is not what I said. I've never been party to torture. We are a country that fights by the rule of law, and our men and women always do. And yet we have too many people here in air-conditioned offices that like to point fingers at the guys in dark and dangerous places, the gals in helicopters in enemy territory who are doing things that people in Washington, D.C. would never dare to do, or send, in many cases.
In one of your interviews, you said they're willing to do this. You're talking about Donald Trump and Senator Cruz.
And when they were more restrictive.
You know, it's hard to get to, philosophical bedrock with this issue of torture. I'm generally against torture, obviously, but there are questions you can ask. Remember, there was a question posed in a book written by actually Sam Harris, of all people, before he lost his mind. Was posing a question on torture. And say you had somebody who had kidnapped a child, had put the child somewhere. The child has a limited amount of time before it will die, right? And you catch the guy, he did it. He knows where the child is 100%. What do you do? Do you force the matter? I think the moral choice in that case is obviously you do what you have to do to get him to talk, right? Even if it doesn't work, it's better than doing nothing, than just saying, well, we can't do anything. In that case, there are special circumstances. It's not as cut and dry as a lot of people make it out to be. It really isn't. Anyway, let's continue. Yes, there he is. That's good. All right, I've got a feeling you guys are going to have a lot to say about this when we get to the end of it in the chat, and we will get there, and we'll probably spend some good time there. Let's see. Pete Hegseth, we won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Today we have 44 4-star generals, all of them political, apparently. Let's take a look.
Bloating. What are you going to do about that?
Senator, we're going to address that. We won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Today we have 44 4-star generals. There's an inverse relationship between the size of staffs and victory on the battlefield. We don't need more bureaucracy at the top. We need more warfighters empowered at the bottom. So it's going to be my job working with those that we hire and those inside the administration to identify those places where fat can be cut so it can go toward lethality.
Thank you, sir. Bloating. What are you going to?
Yeah, it's an interesting question here. It's, I think, a fairly well-known fact that generals are considered to be politicians now and perhaps always, right? There's been very political in the selection, right? And when you have, you go from 7 to 44, say, at what point is this just kind of becoming de facto bureaucracies? So interesting. Let's see. All right, we've already seen that. So, how about this? So from Billboard, Chris, Pete Hegseth will bring justice for military members fired for refusing the jab. Let's take a look.
I will commit to this because the commander-in-chief has committed to this, that not only will they be reinstated, they will receive an apology, back pay, and rank that they lost because they were forced out due to an experimental vaccine. I will commit to this because the commander.
Yeah, it's insane that hasn't already been being done. I mean, how many of them? For one thing, young people are the least at risk. Young, healthy people are the least at risk. They never needed it in the first place. How many of them caught it, got over it naturally? Right? It's insane. It's just lunacy. You know, when things like that happen and they're having trouble recruiting, and yet these people are still kicked out, essentially, you know something's wrong. You know that it's political at that point, right? You know it's not based on merit or just common sense at that point. Which is, again, these are not, you don't want to use words like lunacy when you're describing your military. How about this one? So I guess we've got some gender questions here. Let's take a look. How will Pete Hegseth answer? Will he give the right answer? Let's take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are 2 genders.
I know that well. I'm a she-he, so I'm on board. What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
What do you think are most important strategic
I did 1 set of 9 this morning.
bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30, Senator.
And what size round does the M9 Beretta standard issue sidearm for the military fire?
A 9mm, Senator.
What kind of batteries do you put in your night vision goggle?
Duracell.
So right there, you're representing qualifications that show you understand what the warfighter deals with every single day on the battlefield. You understand what happens on the front line, where our troops will be. And what happens, unfortunately, in this country is decisions made in rooms like this, bad decisions, end up in dead 17, 18, 19-year-old Americans. And those Americans rarely come from families that sit in rooms like this. They come from lower middle-income families who sometimes the militaries are on the way out. And they join because maybe they want to go to college. Maybe they had no other choice. Maybe they love this country. But for whatever reason, they joined and they sat on the dotted line. And when people like us screw up, they don't come home. And that's the one thing that I care about. As you remember when I shut the door, when you came with your entourage, Senator Coleman, I've known for a long time, and you and I sat together, asked you one question. You remember what that question was?
Are you going to have the backs of the war fighters?
Exactly. What is going to be your number one priority? And I don't care, frankly, what all these letters and articles say. I've been a part of a smear campaign too. I get it. I care that you're going to have one thing in mind when you sit in that chair in that 5-sided building. And you told me what that was. So with that, you have my support. I'm sorry you have to go through a process like this.
So this is all just perfect sanity, right? Perfect sanity. All right, I think do we have one more thing here? Let's go back to this one more time because I didn't even want to show you there once because it's just too irritating. Let's just watch one more.
Are you willing to support our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line?
Yikes, that's irritating. That's why this. All right. Where are we at? So let's get to the chat. Although, you know what? I think I might have to just take a quick break, which means that, before we do that, we're going to have to cut off the YouTube part of this. Rumble will continue on blithely on Rumble. Nothing will happen on Rumble. Just keep watching on Rumble. The stream's going to continue, but for YouTube, we're going to have to shut it off right now. I've explained many times why we don't do the full show on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, please follow us over on Rumble. Water's great. Everybody's super friendly. You're going to like it. Way more people over here. Anyway, if not, we'll see you on Friday. It's done.